Hello and welcome to this episode of How to Be a Great Player. Well, if you haven't watched the How to Be a Great GM video yet, this week I am looking at comments that you have written in all of the videos that have been posted up and discussing some of those comments, the good and the bad, to just unpack things a little more or to elaborate. Now, I would encourage you to watch the video and then read through the comments, as a lot of the comments have some very good information in them and are very powerful. For example, I myself was converted from being opposed to online role-playing to actually embracing it and enjoying it as a result of the comments of you and suggesting that I look at things in a different way. So let me start with a video that's got quite a lot of response, both positive and negative. And here is the very first one. The video is, "Are you a GM bully?" Lamia Domina, who does not seem to like the channel very much, or at least does, and so is quite happy to voice their opinion, and I welcome it in all its shades, says, "The constant petulant hostility towards rules in these is really telling. If you can't even be bothered to learn the rules, why are you running the game? Go play in a free-form chat room if you're just going to run a game with no actual gameplay. Players who expect you to put in the same minimum effort they did to actually learn the game aren't the problem here." I am not sure how this applies particularly to being a GM bully, except perhaps if you are constantly having to give the GM all of the rules that the GM is either making a mistake of or is not running very, very well or applying them very well. Again, though, the point here, and I would agree, if the GM doesn't know the rules, then the GM can't decide which rules to apply and which not to apply. The players, though, it is not your responsibility to constantly be stopping the game because the GM doesn't know the rules. Now, a good GM should, if they are uncertain as to a rules call, turn to the player base and say, "Does anyone know the rule on this?" very quickly. If someone does, let them say their piece, apply it, and then move on. As a player, if you know the rules and you know how the rules should be applied and the GM makes a mistake, make a note of it and move on. Your GM is obviously learning. Now, if you go to that GM after the session and you say, "Listen, this was the rules call that you made, and I think that it was the wrong call because this is what the rule actually says," and the GM turns and says, "Oh, I'm not interested. That doesn't make sense. I'm not going to use that." That is the GM's prerogative. It is, of course, also indicative of the GM if they don't think about that rule and then decide to apply it or to ignore it. Now, what should you do in this case where you feel that there is this hostility, this petulant hostility towards you as a player? If you're feeling this, I would strongly advise that you either raise it with the GM or that you go and try and find your own group or a different group to play with who share similar attitudes and approaches to playing the game as you do. This is not about excluding anybody from the role-playing space. It's about trying to make sure that we're all in the right role-playing space. And I've been in many groups where I have had to leave simply because I didn't fit with the way in which I thought the game should be run. The rest of the players were quite happy with it, and so I had to bow out. And that's something that's very, very important in all of these videos, is it's about you deciding what's right for you. And if you don't like what's in this video, for example, or if you don't like what the GM is doing at that table, don't stay there. Don't try and enforce your way of doing things on the rest of the table if they are happy with the way that it's going. Rather go and find your own group. It's a lot easier than a lot of people think. Just jump online. All right, now on the video, how to step out of your comfort zone. Radred609 says, "This video is making me think I should take a break from GMing for a month or two and let one of my players run a short arc for this exact purpose." The exact purpose being to step out of the comfort zone. This is absolutely fantastic. I had forgotten how much fun it is to play in a game that is well run by a GM who knows what they're doing. I had also forgotten what it's like to be a player and to experience good GM calls and bad GM calls. So recently I've taken up doing a lot more role-playing online as a player, and I have to say I am thoroughly enjoying it. I am starting to rekindle my passion for playing and to gain more and more experience as a GM to use in my games. So as a player, if your GM has been running the game for a long time, why not volunteer to run a game for the GM? Yeah, it might be daunting, especially if you find that GM to be particularly good, but it'll help stretch you as a player, and it'll give you a different perspective on what it's like to sit at the other end of the table. So I think this is a great comment, RadRed609. Now, in response to this comment, Emperor Belisarius writes, "Go for it. Too many GMs suffer from not having someone else run a game, else willing to run a game. So don't ignore the opportunity. It is important to play at least every now and then, so you remember what it is like to be a player." Well, absolutely, I agree with you 100%, Emperor. Ascilius writes, "Random question. What is your opinion on introducing celebrity characters into your RPG universe? For example, I am running a Warhammer 40k Dark Heresy campaign, and as you know, there are dozens of figures with galaxy-wide fame. On the one hand, I get excited to make the reference to this awesome guy, but as a player, do you think you'd react with, 'Wow, this guy is so freaking cool, he or she is amazing,' or not?" Well, this is more of a GM question, but it was posted under how to step out of your comfort zone. And this is a question that you as a player should be asking yourself when your GM introduces people. If your GM is hopping up and down and blushing because they're introducing Captain Jean-Luc Picard into your Star Trek game, or Superman into your Mutants and Masterminds game, or, well, any of the famous characters, how should you respond? Well, that goes back to, does your character know who this person is? Is their celebrity that great that they should have a response? Now, I remember in some of the older role-playing games, there was a system called reputation, where your reputation literally could precede you. It was a value that stacked up over time, and as you did amazing things, it increased, and you could then recognize other NPCs or characters based on their reputation score. So I think it's a good thing to introduce these celebrity characters, again, if everybody knows who they are. Now, if you're a player and you're sitting there and your GM says, "Well, Darth Vader steps off of the platform and stands in front of you," and everyone else is freaking out, take a moment and just say, why are we scared of Darth Vader? Who is this character? Is he a Dalek? I don't know. Don't be afraid to ask. And if they say, "Oh, he's just a very powerful character," then react appropriately. "Oh, he's a powerful character and I know about him. Wow, he's got to be powerful for me to know about him." So that's my take on that. Then there is a question here that I've moved over from the GM questions. So this was for a video that I posted for the GMs. Are you a dick GM? Now, in this, a player wrote the comment, and this is James Akron. James writes, "My first DM had a tendency to favorite me. Not necessarily mechanics-wise, but definitely giving the spotlight to my character. Quite simply because I had perhaps the most memorable character at the table, being the comic relief and the leader, and at the same time was a bit of a joint effort of creation with the DM. I wanted to particularly put this into the player video because this is an example where the player is not at fault here. The GM likes the player's character because of the comic relief and being the leader, and the player, of course, is playing up to that. Well, maybe not in James's case, but it would be the tendency. If you're getting all the spotlight, well, you're not going to say, "Oh, well, hang on a moment, GM, wouldn't you please just deal with so-and-so and so-and-so?" Most of us wouldn't. I know I certainly wouldn't. I, however, would suggest that when the DM starts pushing stuff towards you only, "Oh, Throthgar, Ulrich, Sarah, wouldn't you come and help me with this problem the GM has just given to me?" If NPCs are talking only to me. I would say, Throthgar, wouldn't you just deal with this NPC here quickly? He seems to have a problem with X or Y. I'm going to go and water the horses. So I would try and balance it out a little bit. And also after each session, I'd go to the gym and say, you know that you spend quite a lot of time with my character and not a lot of time with everybody else. It also, if the GM says, yes, but you've got the most interesting character, it's also an opportunity for you as the player to go to your fellow players and say, hey, should we work on your backstory a little bit? I want to know what your character's backstory is, because I really want to get to know your character more. I really want to find out more about Sarah or Ulf or Throthgar or the rest of your party. So there's an opportunity for you, if the GM is favoring you, for you to turn it around and to help your fellow players. Under the video, what is metagaming and why is it bad? Cuddly Lizard, and I happen to love that name, Cuddly Lizard says, if the player knows the monster manual well and how to defeat what is inside it and what the monsters do, it is not the fault of the player. It is not metagaming. I'm extrapolating. The character could have read the in-game variant of the monster manual for all the GM knows. At this point, it is the fault of the GM. The GM shouldn't go around saying, this is an orc, this is an adult white dragon, this is a werewolf. The GM should be describing what things are and making their own monsters so that players don't know. Well, I wanted to bring this in for a few reasons. Remember, this is in response to the video, what is metagaming and why is it bad? The idea that the character has read some in-game monsters manual that describes how these beasts can be defeated is problematic and is a simple solution to a metagaming problem. The idea that these manuals exist on how to defeat vampires, werewolves, and other evil creatures, yes, there may be some folklore, yes, there may be a library somewhere that details how to slay werewolves, but that should be something that the character does in the game, not out of game or before the game. Oh, my character's level 1, but he's read every single book on how to slay every single creature because I, as the player, have read the monsters manual because I might also be a GM or I might just be interested in learning the monsters in the monsters manual. So you've got to be careful about how you say, well, I've read an in-game book. Where did you get the book from? Is the book accurate? How do you know the book's information is true? There are all kinds of story questions there that need to be answered rather than just a dismissive, well, I've read them all. However, I absolutely agree with your comment that the GM should not simply be plastering, this is an orc, it's chaotic neutral, chaotic evil, it's got 8 hit points, it's got this, it's got that. I agree with you, GM should be reskinning their monsters, they should be describing the creature rather than just labeling it as X or Y straight out of the book. So I absolutely agree with you. But again, this is why metagaming is such an interesting topic and such a difficult topic too. What one person considers metagaming, another person simply considers, I've read a book. It's about finding that balance, and it's about making sure that your party agrees to just what is metagaming versus what is not metagaming. And that's the balance, that's the key here. Adrian6210 says, there are times where I feel the character I'm playing knows things I don't. Well, that happens a lot. And it's one of the questions that came up on the channel is how do you role play a character who's more intelligent, has greater wisdom or insight than you as the player actually has? It's a very difficult space to be in because it depends entirely on how your GM interprets your statistics and your values. So if you're playing a character who's got an intelligence of 18, which is genius level according to some rule systems, or has a 90% on their intellect score and is simply knows everything, or has an eidetic memory and can remember everything and you can't because your note taking is rather poor, or simply because you have too many notes to try and work through, asking the GM, well, can I make an intelligence check to see if I can work out a solution, is unfortunately the only way to actually handle it. Now it raises a whole bunch of metagaming problems here because the argument is made, well, I don't actually role play out hitting the orc with my axe, so why should I role play out thinking a solution? I don't necessarily roleplay riding a horse across the room, so why should I roleplay seducing the NPC opposite me at the table? Where we have physical skills versus intellectual or spiritual skills, there is this funny space where we're happy just to roll for damage and for attack, but we seem reluctant to roll for the soft skills, the intellectual skills. And again, here is just something where you need to chat to your GM and say, listen, my character is much smarter than I am. I understand my limitations. Help us out here. So it really is just about having a conversation with your GM and seeing how she or he might want to run that particular situation. If they enforce that you must solve the puzzle without rolls, then I'm afraid it may just be time to look for a different group. Now, I know that I advocate all the time looking for different groups, and that's because there's no point in punishing yourself or others because you want to stay with that group or you're afraid you won't find another group. You will find another group. They are out there, and online is our greatest friend. See how I've changed because of comments that you guys have left? Okay, then finally to the video, why is metagaming good? Efringiel responded, I played a full orc. We had fought a troll. I knew they could regenerate, but no one else did. They couldn't figure out how to keep it down for good, and we had to fight it a few times. The rest of the party showed no signs of backing down, even though we were close to death. So my character decided he was going to cook and eat it, using the logic that nothing he has ever eaten has come back to life. Like the harpy he ate sessions earlier, or the merchant's horse he ate at character introduction. He ended up having to pull the merchant's cart though. I absolutely love this comment, because what this comment does is it looks at the metagaming problem, and it looks at a story problem, and it just brings it all together into a beautiful solution. The character has got such characterization. It eats stuff. Weird stuff. It eats a harpy. It eats a horse. And now it's going to eat a troll. That gives the character such richness. This player has created an amazing character. And with his lovely little humorous story about the orc now has to pull the merchant's cart because he ate the horse. Backstory, history, personality. It's all just boiled down into this one little solution to a metagame problem. This is why metagaming can be so good, and this is why I advocate, don't just dismiss it that, oh, my orc read a book once and it knows how to defeat trolls. Look at this. This is just such a nice example of bringing it all together and making it story-driven. I really like this answer. Well, I hope you found some value in going through the comments that you guys have left. I would always encourage you to watch the video, read all the comments if you've got time, and make your own opinions about just what is and is not appropriate for you as the player and for your party if you are running a game as well. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. You can join me on Patreon for one-on-one coaching or for question and answer live sessions every Wednesday morning here at Central South African time. Or join us next time when we look at something else. Until then, I wish you the very happiest of playing.